Hi there, Alexey Pashkov here. I have recently asked you about this painting, about your thoughts on the story. It is indeed strange. In the sky flies fantastic and eerie chariot made of what seems to be dragon skulls and bones. It carries an old man armed with a scythe, and he is digging his teeth into a baby's side. The scene is terrifying. However, below it, on the ground, things are not any better. There is a small town populated by cripples and beggars, and they are getting toads and snakes and all kinds of freshwater nastiness pouring out of this chariot right on their heads. What could this all mean? What did the Dutch painter Jan van Kessel, who painted this in the 16th century, have in mind? That's what we're going to investigate today. And as always on this channel, it's going to be a real historical investigation. Because you know how it happens sometimes? There is an image or a story in a culture, and as it travels through time, from one era to another, it develops and transforms. New storylines, new ideas, new philosophies are woven into it. And in the end, it comes down to us as something much more complex than it was originally. And now you and I can take this image and, as a kind of archaeologists, begin to uncover it, peeling off layer after layer to reveal all the twists of its history. This painting is case in point. We're going to take it apart now, and in order to do that, we will have to travel from the 16th century Holland all the way back to ancient Greece. Well, first things first. We need to figure out the basics, that is, the original ancient myth on which this picture is based. If you are good with ancient mythology, well, good for you. If you are not so good, well, stick to this channel and I promise you will become an expert in no time. So, to the painting at hand. The old man biting into the baby's side, who is he? There can only be one answer, and the answer is obvious. It's Kronos, the forefather of the gods, devouring one of his children. How did he develop such peculiar tastes? Well, let's jot your memory. In Greek mythology, there was a concept of 3 generations of gods. The very first generation was Uranus and Gaia. Uranus is the sky, Gaia is the earth. They begin to procreate, but in an odd way. Uranus conceals his children in the womb of Gaia. That is to say, he confined them in the depth of the underworld. Gaia suffered greatly from this, and her children were not happy either. Eventually, one of them, namely Kronos, rebelled against his own father. In the end, he killed him in a rather peculiar way, by chopping off his manhood. And he did it with the sickle. In antique art, depictions of Kronos are firstly quite rare, and secondly, if they do occur, he is usually armed with the sickle, as for example here. However, over time, when the modern-looking scythe was invented in the Middle Ages, it has replaced the sickle as his weapon of choice and his main attribute. And on the famous mural by Giulio Romano, which is the most canonical image of Kronos castrating his father, he already has a scythe in his hands. And, as you'll realize by the end of today's video, it's likely that our familiar image of death, the Grim Reaper equipped with the scythe, has apparently evolved from Kronos. But we still have to get there. So, Kronos casts out his father Uranus, frees all his brothers and sisters from the underworld, and becomes the king of the gods. But soon, he also goes down the slippery slope. Like father, like son. That saying is applicable here, because Kronos too develops a vile habit of getting rid of his descendants. And he does it in a more reliable way. He eats them. What happens next, I think you remember. His wife Rhea, trying to save at least one infant, namely Zeus, offers Kronos a stone wrapped in diapers instead. He doesn't notice the difference. The stone is swallowed, Zeus is hidden, and he grows up. And then, naturally, it is his turn to rebel and dethrone his own father, which he does, thus becoming the ruler of the third generation of gods. So, initially, Kronos is a cruel god who devours his children. Of course, the theme of devouring babies offered artists innumerable chances to exercise their imagination. Some tried to conceal the most ghastly side of the story. For example, Tiepolos Kronos, who devours a child, looks more like a caring father who plays Wolfie with his baby. Wolfie, you know. But at the other end of the spectrum is Goya's stunningly expressive, not to say shocking, painting. Kronos, devouring his baby, becomes a mad old monster in a grasp of violent frenzy, clearly not realizing what he's doing, and he's tearing pieces of meat from the small and already limp body with his bloody mouth. Even I'm repulsed by it. But this is a famous image. You know this one. That is the initial point of the story of the image. And as you understand, it is from the scythe and the baby in his hands that we recognize Kronos in Jan van Kessel's painting. However, this does not explain his strange bone chariot drawn by dragons. It does not explain the snakes and toads, and it does not explain the wretched population of the earth watching him from below. This population, I repeat, consists mostly of cripples and beggars. To understand all this, you and I need to move further down the timeline.